Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice has some issues, but we'll start with the positives. The film begins strong. Director Zack Snyder is very visually minded and there's a lot of cool shots in the film, which makes for an excellent trailer. The opening credits sequence is excellent and reminds me of Watchmen's similar montage, which was also a highlight in that film. The special effects are good and some structural fundamentals are well laid out. As was seen in the trailer, there's some neat conflict regarding Superman's godlike status. Unfortunately, that issue quickly dissipates in the wake of "we gotta make Batman and Superman fight." For starters, this movie just needs to chill out. All anyone does in this universe is think about dramatic, over-serious things to say and bathe in pessimism. With the exception of Eisenberg, all the actors seem like they're capable of pulling off their characters genuinely, but the way the film's written makes it feel like a bad episode of Law & Order with iconic superheroes and a $250 million budget. Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy worked with a darker tone because those movies are essentially crime thrillers, grounded in a reality similar to our own. This movie has aliens and monsters and magic, and the brooding nature of the film doesn't mix with those components. Despite seemingly trying to address the issue of Man of Steel's disaster porn, the movie fails to address many other problems that were all but universally condemned in Man of Steel. That is, an overly dark tone, absence of substance, and lack of concern for human life. Which leads me to my next point that I probably shouldn't discuss without issuing a spoiler warning. To wrap, for anyone who hasn't seen the film, it's poor, but has a few good elements to it. The film isn't as overcrowded as it might have been and has some decent visuals, but is still a weaker effort than Man of Steel. 4 out of 10. But now spoilers. In 3, 2, 1. Batman straight up murders dozens of people in this movie. He's obviously avoiding it whenever unnecessary, but thugs are still winding up dead. I'm all for reinventing a character, but in departing from such a core aspect of Batman, some kind of recognition is appropriate, if not necessary. All you need is a couple throwaway lines of dialogue like, "I remember when the Batman had some kind of moral code. And look where that got us." Points to costume of Jason Todd, and we're ready to go. But no one has any motivation for anything in this movie. Jesse Eisenberg isn't awful in this film because his character is a departure from the comics. He's simply a despicable, obnoxious, and uninteresting character, period. This is only made worse by the fact that he has no motivation for literally condemning the Earth to annihilation besides, he's crazy! That Lex Luthor fella, such a crazy guy, always trying to destroy the world for no reason. Maybe there was supposed to be some kind of insight in this provided in his speech, like he used to think money was power, but Superman has shown him what true power is, so he's gonna destroy him? I don't know. Even then, that's a pretty flimsy reason to destroy the world. Batman is also supposed to be driven to the point of feeling like killing Superman is necessary, and they put forward some effort here by having him witness the destruction caused in Man of Steel and portraying him as an overly pessimistic character who sees Superman as a threat. But basic reasoning and or conversation could have dissolved this tension. It's no secret that Superman still saved the world in destroying half of Metropolis. The world's greatest detective should have been able to see this. Conflict and eventual fight could have worked, but the motivation provided is pathetic. The best versus movie ever is probably Pacino versus De Niro in Heat. The best scene in this movie is when the two proclaim a ceasefire and have a riveting conversation in a diner where they openly discuss their backgrounds. 1. Wouldn't it have been great to see Clark and Bruce have an unstifled conversation where they discuss the conflict in hand and flesh out their characters? And 2. If there's a real conflict worth killing each other over, it should have survived basic conversation, which, in this movie, it doesn't. If Batman was supposed to be a good guy, why is he so eager to put soups in the ground? But my final big issue with Batman v Superman is how unnecessary the first character is to the flick. With minor modification, this film could be a straight Man of Steel sequel. Batman's actions have no ultimate consequence, and Wonder Woman is just kind of there. Furthermore, the movie is much too concerned about building a universe and polling for bonus points and adapting classic comic book material to the screen. The dumbest scene in the movie is when Superman launches into the air with Doomsday, and a good 4 seconds later the president is being notified that the option to detonate a nuclear weapon over Metropolis is available. He then validates such action and the holders of launch keys initiate launch maybe 10 seconds later. The whole sequence of events is clearly a pull from The Dark Knight Returns, which contains the most iconic Batman-Superman throwdown in comic book history. Also, it's a fantastic piece of media that, regardless if you loved or hated this movie, you should still check out. In it, Superman experiences the detonation of a nuclear explosion and is only saved by the sun. So I see what they're doing, but any themes of this event in the comic book don't translate, and it ends up being an inconsequential scene where, well, anyone heard of nuclear fallout? So, Batman v Superman is a mess. I wouldn't say the potential for the cinematic universe is totaled so long as Zack Snyder stays out of the mix, but at this point they'll have to actively try to make a worse film. Those are my thoughts, feel free to leave yours below.